Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options and Play video update. You guys didn't think I'd forget about earnings on the radar, did you? It's been a slower morning for news, but a pretty busy morning of overall action. Just a lot of pretty sizable red to green, pretty sizable green to red reversals today. Starting to see some weakness in top names, and it'll be interesting to see if this translates to near-term top. This is definitely going to be something that we're going to go over more in depth tonight when we all get together at the options trading session. So if you guys are joining, looking forward to that. Definitely a lot to talk about on the earnings front. So again, like I said, a lot of green to red reversals, a lot of weakness in top or recently leading names. Salesforce being one of the top software stocks. Also a great setup, strong name going into earnings until today, and you can see that pretty sizable move lower. So as it just happened to play out, Salesforce, one of the biggest names this week, and also tonight after the close, Monday after the close. So it's pricing in about 11 points, and I mean, again, the stock had really been acting fantastic going into this. Was in like a couple week base above what had been previous resistance, previous 52-week high, right? So you can see. Um, so software stocks across the board pretty much been great in terms of actual numbers this week, numbers this quarter. What you have started to see, especially Friday, is some sell the news in the top names. So like the Workdays, the Autodesks, the Splunks, right? They all beat pretty handily and were sold off on Friday. Now you're seeing top name in the group, Salesforce, getting hit a little bit as well. Earnings tonight. I'm still bullish bias. Like, I mean, these numbers on Salesforce have really been pretty good recently. Coming off a nice quarter, back into like the teeth of the selling in November, December. Um, I do think if the numbers are good, this could get back into like the mid 160s pretty quick. A pent up move, right? Like it had been working on a breakout here. Maybe get it to like the 170 range relatively soon. So I'm still bullish bias, still thinking call spreads, but maybe have to tighten up risk a bit with like the overall um, environment. Just today, maybe things are like the complexion of the market starting to change a little bit. So maybe tighten up risk a little bit on that one. But overall, still bullish biased. Also tonight, YY. Um, Pricing in about 6 points. So I feel like this chart setting up kind of similar to what JD was like before it finally turned the corner and broke out. Long sideways range here, right? Kind of at the top of it, just underneath it, heading into earnings. You could see pretty nice measured move breakout up into like the 80 area, right, with the 200 day. So it lines up nicely with the August bounce pivot and the 200 day. So you're starting to see some of the Chinese names wake up. This one pretty tight little consolidation just underneath resistance level, priced in 6 points. If good, could lead to like that move up into the high 70s, 80. Just thinking call spread on that one. Okay, Tuesday before the Open, Sienna. This thing has been a rock star, and it priced in at about 3.5 points, which really it's not too bad considering some of the recent moves have been more in like the 4 to 5 range. The problem is that the stock has been just on a tear and is up so much since it last reported, and is up quite a bit just ahead of these results. So it seems kind of extended to me, and expectations are much higher probably than where they were a few months ago. So I guess I just don't really like the setup this time around. We traded it back in December in the last quarter. This setup is a little bit different. Stock seems extended. I guess what I'd be watching for is if it pulls back, which we've seen in some of like these names that have run into earnings. They've pulled back even though the numbers have been pretty solid. So if Sienna pulls back to maybe like the 20 day or even a little bit lower, could be a nice opportunity to like snag some for like a swing, like rebound long. Also tomorrow morning, Target. So you can see this thing's just been like really tight little consolidation right at the top of the gap. This is the November earnings gap. So there's pricing in 4.5 points. They already guided holiday sales back in January, but this could still be a mover. Um, really tight range, really well-defined gap above. I'm more bullish biased because those holiday sales actually were pretty strong and they did beat estimates, even though the stock didn't act particularly great at the time. Um, but retail performance been a little bit more mixed. So maybe like some sort of hedge against like the open call position, right? So bullish bias, but do acknowledge that like retail has been a little bit more mixed recently. So maybe some sort of lower debit hedge against like the open call position. That's what I'm thinking on target right now. Also tomorrow morning it is Kohl's, but they already reported comps, and I don't know. I just don't find the chart as interesting as Target, so I'm gonna probably leave that one alone. Just kind of like we left Macy's alone last week. All right, Tuesday after the close, Ambarella. This one's interesting, right? Like kind of in like that like right at the top of like this long resistance range, trying to turn the corner after like a period of underperformance, right? We've seen a handful of these setups recently. I mean, they obviously all haven't worked. They all haven't broken out and worked their way higher, but it is interesting because a name that's really underperformed right at the top of resistance. It's priced in 4 points, and it's coming off. It wasn't the best number in November, but it was a pretty strong reaction, so that's good. So I feel like there's some positive signs here, and if they can actually like turn in a pretty solid quarter, could lead to like a pent up breakout. And obviously, there's a really well defined gap from the June quarter. So I like this as maybe like a speculative long play into earnings. Urban Outfitters also Tuesday after the close. So priced in about 2.5 points. They already gave holiday guidance here, so it could be a little bit less volatile. But it's been in a really tight little trend lower, increasingly tight consolidation right at 30. You can see that there's quite a bit of room underneath. Obviously, it's come a long ways lower in not too long of a period of time. So well off its high, right at a key area of support. So even though they did give holiday sales, it still seems like there could be a move here. If they talk about forward guidance, right, that could be still a pretty significant catalyst. Pricing at 2.5 points, which it doesn't seem bad. I mean, it'd probably have to be really good or really bad, but in either of those scenarios, there could be maybe like a 5-ish point move, so maybe even double what it's pricing in there. Okay, Wednesday before the open, we have Baozun, BZUN, another China name here. So pricing at about 5 points. This is one of the more volatile China names, and actually this has averaged closer to 8 points the last 3 quarters. It moved 7, so it moved 7 back in November when it was kind of in like the same price range, so down in like the 30s, right? So it's averaged about 8 points the last 3 quarters, pricing in 5. Seems like there could be visibility for 7 to 8 again, right? So recent support was down around 30. The next key area on the upside is the 200-day, right around 45, right, which like kind of lines up with the November bounce pivot. So about $8, $7 to $8 either way, which is kind of lines up with what it's done over the last 3 quarters. It's pricing in 5 points. So thinking maybe a strangle here. Seems like it could be one of those scenarios where options are a little bit underpriced versus what has moved in the past and what the chart says technically. Okay, also Wednesday before the open, Dollar Tree. Pricing in 7 points. Last quarter was one of the smaller moves it's had. Right, so that was, let's see. So that was here. So this is one of the smaller moves it's had off an earnings report in a while, because if you can see prior to that, it had been averaging close to like 15 or so, 14 to 15. See here, here, and here. So last quarter is 5.5 was one of the smaller ones, but this is the holiday quarter, and they haven't guided yet. So I could see this possibly being more of a return to like that huge volatility from earlier in last year. Again, this got plenty of room lower. It's got pushing up underneath 100, so it's got plenty of room higher. As you see, when I scroll back further, so bumping up into 100. It's come a long ways off the bottom, so it seems like there's decent room either way. what I am looking at, and what I'm thinking is Dollar General, right? So DG, which is obviously another dollar store, they don't report until next week. So this has got sympathy trade written all over it, right? Like two very like closely correlated companies. Dollar Tree hasn't. Neither of them have given holiday sales yet. So Dollar Tree reports this week. Dollar General next week. Dollar General has weekly options that are pricing about half the amount that Dollar Tree is. So I'm thinking sympathy trade with DG options for this one. Also, not yet confirmed, but Lumber Liquidators might be Wednesday, so I'll be keeping an eye out for that one just because I feel like this is a pretty good setup for movement. But they haven't issued a press release confirming the earnings date, so I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for that. All right, on to Wednesday after the close. Yext. Kind of a quieter night Wednesday, but this is one that could be a mover. It's priced in 2 points, so this is it's kind of an interesting small cap software play. You can see a decent flag under key resistance here, way off its 52-week high. It got hit back here off their inline report, so it wasn't a particularly bad report. It just was just in line, but had a couple decent reports before that. So maybe if they can get that snapback solid report, maybe the stock gets like the breakout through resistance here. Please catch up to some of the other software stocks that are at or near the 52-week highs. Valuation is not too bad. Not a huge priced in move. So I'm thinking maybe just a straight bullish bet on this one. Options aren't bad. Chart's not bad. Valuation is not too bad. And could play some catch up to the overall sector if it's decent. Burlington. So okay, this is into Thursday morning now. So Burlington's pricing about 12.5. It was a really big mover last quarter here, and they haven't guided holiday sales yet. The thing is that TJX already reported, so that was another off-price name. It wasn't a huge move for TJX, and Ross Stores is going to report before Burlington this week, which I didn't even talk about. But I guess I feel like TJX and Ross Stores are basically going to set expectations here, and really like the biggest move would probably be if they surprise against those expectations. So like last quarter, TJX and Ross Stores both got hit, and then Burlington surprised to the upside, and you had like a really big move higher, right? So it's like if TJX and Ross Stores both beat, then it seems like maybe better news is priced in, and the bigger reaction would potentially be to the downside. So I mean, it's not my favorite setup, and options are a little bit on the higher side. So I'm thinking I'll probably avoid, but maybe if you get like a big reaction to Raw stores, then you could possibly think of going the opposite way for like a lower debit trade on Burlington. Okay, Kroger pricing in 2.25, but until about 2.25. It was on like a really nice streak of exceeding the price in moves just until this past quarter. Then the volatility kind of dried up. I mean, it really hadn't been doing a whole lot since December earnings, so back here. So it really hadn't been doing a whole lot. Then it got smacked on Friday on another Amazon headline. So maybe, maybe like that headline opened up the volatility. Maybe it's due for more of a reversion to its average larger moves on earnings. Last quarter was more of a non-event. Um, I'd say like at this point, like a strangle is probably what you're gonna be looking at. But it would probably be more on the speculative side, and maybe be worth it to like push the time frame out a bit, um, just to see, if you go back a little bit further. So if we go back on the daily chart a little bit longer, you can see that it's kind of at like an interesting area, right? So it's got like this pennant forming on like a longer time frame. If I just draw it fast. Right? So you can see just like a quick pennant forming there, and then kind of at like the pinnacle, so like the resolution point. So maybe go out a little bit longer. If it disappoints, have a serious breakdown, serious monthly breakdown. If it beats, maybe have a serious monthly breakout. But I think the time frame would have to be longer to potentially capture a move like that. Okay, SSYS. This is also Thursday morning. So the price in about 275. So Triple D reported this past week and was hit. And so some of the surprise may be gone on SSYS, but the thing is, Triple D and SSYS have performed pretty differently recently. And SSYS actually is in kind of like striking distance of further back I go, you can see. So it's within striking distance of this really key um, level, like the top of like this really long channel, right? So Triple D was not particularly strong, but SSYS has been on. The numbers have been better recently, and it's like this really interesting long term level that it's like pushing up to. So there could be a really big pent up breakout if they surprise to the upside. So I'm thinking of probably some sort of like call spread, something just maybe like lower debit, just something to have in place in case numbers really are solid and this thing starts to take off. Because I mean, there could be a really big pent up move after um, more or less 3 years of just sideways action, right? So keep an eye on that one. I got that one circled. I mean, that I've been watching SSYs for months. All right, Thursday after the close, we have Costco. So that'll be another big report. It's pricing in at 8.5 points. Actually had a pretty similar patterns the last 2 quarters, so it kind of gets pumped up on really strong monthly comps. So they report comps at the beginning of each month. So you get these really strong comps. Stock runs on the comps, and then the last 2 quarters. So here, right, and then here. So 2 quarters in a row, it's got pumped up on comps, and then it's gotten sold off after margin concerns. So holiday quarter. Really similar pattern in the last 2 quarters. So, thinking maybe like a bearish bet here, see if it kind of like follows the same pattern again, especially because it's like kind of pushing up into a really key area right here. So it's kind of hitting some resistance. What was previous support 220 turning into resistance right at the 200-day. Has a history of selling off after earnings. So I'm thinking maybe a bearish bet, looking for a retracement back down to like 210, maybe like 205, somewhere down there. Also, Okta Thursday after the close. So it's priced in at 10.5 points, and it got just absolutely crushed today off of a downgrade. It really was a great performing name, and I mean, if I just back out today, right, and that's what it looked like going into earnings, and then, so really just kind of in line with what a lot of other software stocks looked like going into their numbers. So, I mean, today's move just wiped out about 4 weeks of gains. So maybe that's good. Could be falling more into like the trade desk category where you had like this really big analyst call that knocked a lot of the near term momentum out of the stock. Maybe sets expectations lower. Better entry point for maybe like a quick snapback if numbers are good. Um, I feel like the setup's more interesting now after today's action, but still. There's still like a few days before the company reports, so I'll keep an eye on it. I'm undecided now. If it stays down in like this mid 70s area, maybe try for just like a quick snapback if the numbers are good. But tentatively thinking bullish, but haven't really decided on that one. Okay, Friday before the open, so wrapping up the week here, we got Vail, MTN. So they already gave guidance back in January and got smashed. So the options only priced in at 13 points, whereas you've seen some bigger moves. So this was about $25 here and about $35 here. So it's had some bigger moves. So when you look at the options, they look underpriced, but that's also because they already gave guidance. But there could still be a move here. I mean, like technically, it's come all the way back, closed the gap, and now it's kind of flagging around 210. So well off the lows, well under any key areas on the upside. So it's got about $20 higher, like $20 lower. It's priced in at 13 points. I feel like it's not bad. Maybe a lower debit, out of the money strangle. Looking to see if you can maybe get like a if the guidance going forward is decent, maybe you get a move back into like the 220s. If the guidance is weak going forward, maybe you get like another move down to retest the low. So it's pricing in 13, visibility potentially for 20. So it's something I'll be keeping an eye on. All right, another one. So kind of like Lumber Liquidators, BIG tentatively scheduled to report Friday morning, but they haven't confirmed yet. So this is one we were in this past December when it had this monster breakdown and actually a pretty good setup again. So it's bounced off the low, but it's still well underneath where it was the day of that report, right? And you can see, so the further back I go, you can see that it's bounced, but it's now like stuck underneath the low from 2016, right? And another weak report, and it could have like a date with like the mid 20s. So I still actually really like the setup, even for some downside. But it's really gonna, it's really gonna revolve around when they report because they haven't confirmed yet. So I do like the setup. Still think there could be some downside, but they haven't confirmed their earnings date. So right now it's just on watch, and once they confirm, then we can evaluate from there. All right. Uh, so you can see still plenty of big names. Still a lot to look forward to. I mean, we're at the tail end of earnings season, but still kind of like a steady flow of interesting names, interesting setups. It would be fantastic maybe if we get like an extended pullback now, just because it could open up the volatility a little bit and really create some good opportunities. So that's what I'm hoping for is the a little bit more of like an extended pullback, which we basically have not seen at any point in 2019. So that's what I'll be watching. All right. So let me know what you guys think. That's what I'm watching. What are you guys watching? What setups are on your radar? I'd love to hear from you. So please reach out. I hope you guys have a fantastic night, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow. All right.